Film and TV are huge, and even though the ability to record things digitally or on film has only existed for less than 150 years, in the relatively short time it's existed, film has already created the majority of the most relevant and iconic phenomena in culture. Humans are an inherently creative species, and since the earliest days of our history, we've drawn things, told stories, and expressed ourselves any way we can. Our creativity has consistently evolved with technology. We've gone from live plays and pantomimes to billion-dollar film productions and singing songs around campfires to the world's most popular and talented artists selling out stadiums. In the decades since film has been mainstream, it's created literally almost all of the most recognizable images in pop culture. Like, I'll bet you've seen all of these images at some point in your life. For the first few decades of film and TV, if you wanted to watch something, you had to go to your local cinema, buy a ticket, and sit in the theater for the duration of the film. If you liked it enough, you might buy a DVD so you owned the film and could watch it whenever you wanted. The same was true for TV. You watched it whenever it came up on the channel you were watching, and again, if you liked it enough, you'd buy a box set. In this era of the industry, ownership was simple. Things have really changed since then. Now, if you want to watch a TV show or movie, you'll probably log on to one of the 12 streaming services you're paying for, scroll through the endless mediocre filler content to try and find something good to watch, and eventually settle on something random, and then just end up doom scrolling on Twitter. Sorry, X, until you go to bed. So, how did we get here? I think that there are a few things that triggered this change in the way that we consume media. Netflix, the service that kicked off the entire streaming gold rush, was founded in 1997 as a post based DVD rental before beginning its transition into the streaming service we know it as today in 2007. The streaming model was so wildly successful and revolutionary, it quickly became the company's primary revenue stream. Throughout the 2010s, the popularity of streaming grew to the point where it was huge, but it still hadn't taken over from traditional TV and cinema. In the last 5 years or so, though, streaming numbers have been going up, and almost directly correlating with this, box office revenue has been declining. If you ask me, the main reason for this is probably COVID. Since everyone couldn't go to the cinema and was sitting at home with absolutely nothing else to do, Netflix subscriptions absolutely exploded, and the pandemic also launched other services like Disney Plus and Prime Video into the stratosphere. Since then, while definitely still a thing, cinemas are becoming more and more niche all the time, and massive Star Wars or Marvel scale billion-dollar blockbusters are becoming rarer and rarer. Think about this though, the availability of media hasn't changed. Before, if you wanted to buy DVDs of 5 different films and spend $10 on each, it meant you really wanted those 5 films on your shelf to own forever. If you're paying the Netflix subscription that's gradually creeping up over time, I'll get back to that in a minute, you're paying $12 a month for thousands of films you probably won't care about and will probably never have enough time to watch or interact with it anyway, so it'll just end up being a massive waste of money. Unless you're the most unemployed person on earth, chances are you've only got time to watch a couple of films a week at most. And if you're paying for a couple of different streaming services at once, it's just too much content, most of which you don't care about, so you're not getting your money's worth. Speaking of money, these streaming services are expensive. And I don't just mean the fact that you're probably paying for 20 different ones. I mean that the prices are gradually creeping up. When Netflix first launched, it cost $7.99. And all anyone could talk about at the time is what an absolutely stellar deal this was. You could get unlimited films and series, all available to you at any time across all devices, and all it cost was this tiny $7.99 subscription every month. It was the best deal in all of entertainment. Since then, though, things have changed. They've introduced tiering, where you can pay extra for the unimaginable privilege of viewing the media you're already paying for without ad breaks. Or if you're truly one of the top 1% elite of our society, you could pay even more again to watch in 4K. But at least Netflix has the manners to create a separate pricing tier that includes ads, whereas Amazon Prime, Now TV, and Paramount Plus just throw them in with the regular base subscription tier. And even though the prices are creeping up all the time, the actual value of the product is going down. If you were paying $7.99 for Netflix in 2012, you were getting Netflix original content, older stuff that had been licensed out to Netflix from TV channels, plus everything from Disney, Universal, Paramount, and all these other production companies that were moving their content to where the people were, which was Netflix. Now, with Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, Paramount Plus, Hulu, HBO Max, and all these other services that all demand their own subscription, each one only has a fraction of the content that Netflix had a decade ago, but most likely all with at least one show that you really, really want to watch. And again, you can access everything but own nothing. And this process will only get worse as the content is decentralized and put out on other platforms even more than it already is. But there are ways to escape this. Instead of paying for all these services all the time so you can watch whatever you want whenever you want, instead look at what's included on each service and rotate between them. I did this recently with the Halo TV show on Paramount Plus because there wasn't much else on there other than Frasier that I wanted to watch at the time. I'm not going to get into the quality of that show here at the moment because I could honestly go on about it all day, but that's beside the point. We've mostly spoken here about the business behind the media and how you access it, but not the actual media itself, because streaming is affecting the actual media that we all love as well. Studios used to greenlight hordes of smaller, original mid budget films and series like rom coms, horrors, or some kind of original drama. With streaming, though, the norm is shifting more to studios playing it safe with massive scale blockbusters from familiar or long running franchises, or just disposable cheap filler that's made with leftovers. The middle class of film and TV that used to be so creative because it just felt like a group of passionate people with a really original idea and a relatively small budget, making something that they really loved and believed in, meaning that they were lower risk, is being forced to disappear. And the thing is, most of the biggest franchises in history weren't launched by a huge blockbuster, but a smaller, more modest mid budget film that performed well beyond the studio's expectations. One of the best films I saw last year was The Creator, which, even though it had some of the most beautiful and creative visuals I've ever seen, was made on a relatively small budget and was an entirely original IP. If you're in any way interested in sci fi and are looking for something good to watch tonight, I'd highly recommend it. After you finish this video, obviously. And streaming algorithms reward safe bets like reboots and adaptations, discouraging riskier or more experimental or niche projects. All this is making the content both on streaming services and the big screen feel more stale and less exciting than ever in many ways. The content that comes from the Hollywood side of the industry, anyway. Another weird side effect of the streaming age is the huge return of piracy in recent years. Before streaming, in the age of digital downloads and physical media, if you couldn't afford these things or just didn't want to pay full price, there were a slew of websites of questionable legitimacy that you could torrent movies, TV shows, software, music, or anything else on. But now, with so many services and massively in demand exclusive shows, piracy has made a massive comeback in recent years because people just don't want to subscribe to 100 different platforms just to watch one or two shows on each. And no, I swear I have never pirated anything, and I'm definitely not promoting piracy to you, but it is an interesting sign that the consumers are looking for ways to take back control of the media they love. But it's not all bad. Streaming has globalized media like never before. Instead of Hollywood productions and companies dominating the industry in the West, Japanese and Korean shows are making a huge impact over here. If you've gone outside in the last few years, you've probably heard of the global phenomenon that is Squid Game, literally the single biggest show in the history of Netflix, even though it was a subtitled Korean production. And the meteoric popularity of anime, which used to be a relatively niche thing outside of Japan, just goes to show how much more open modern audiences are to international content and new perspectives than ever before. So, where does entertainment go from here? Are we heading in the direction of safe, dull, designed by committee, and algorithm driven slop? Or are we on the verge of an era of unparalleled creativity, new perspectives, and acceptance? I think we'll all just have to wait and see. Anyway, that's all I've got to say for today. Tell me your opinions and predictions in the comments, and please do consider subscribing as it really does help to support smaller channels like this, since I do put an enormous amount of time and work into these videos. Other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.